Hello aspirants, good morning to all and welcome back to SRIRAM's IAS channel. So friends, in today's discussion, let us try to understand one important concept in anthropology, that is linguistic anthropology and the scope and significance of linguistic anthropology. So friends, it is very important for us to understand different branches of anthropology in detail because the questions would be generally reflected and it would be asked directly from this particular section. So from that perspective, let us try to understand about various aspects related to linguistic anthropology. So first, let me explain you or let me show you what we are going to learn. So what are the learning objects of this particular discussion? So in this particular discussion, first we are going to discuss about some basic aspects like, say, we have things like what is linguistic anthropology and the branches of linguistic anthropology. So we are going to study about that first. Then we are also going to study about the scope and significance of the linguistic anthropology. So that is another important aspect, right? And then we are also going to learn about some other biological aspects like what are the areas of the brain that are responsible for the language and speech. So this is another important aspect that we are going to study. Right? And then finally, we'll be learning like the branches in detail and the scope and significance in detail. So that would be our major quest in today's discussion. So first, let us try to start from the very basic aspect that what is linguistic anthropology and what about the various branches of linguistic anthropology. So friends, if you see from the perspective of the linguistic anthropology, so particularly when we say from linguistic anthropology, so this is nothing but it's a branch of anthropology. So linguistic anthropology is a branch of anthropology which usually helps or which usually examines the study of languages. Study of languages within the context of anthropology. In the context of anthropology. So this is what basically how we can just say what is the linguistic anthropology. So that means in very simple fashion to say what is linguistic anthropology means it's a branch of anthropology which deals with the study of languages in the context of anthropology. So again, if you see from the perspective of anthropology, so friends, in anthropology, we have two different branches. One is biological anthropology, which deals with the biological aspects, and other one is cultural anthropology, which deals with the cultural, socio-cultural aspects. So from that perspective, so what will be there? So some biological aspects will be there, and some socio-cultural aspects will be there. So what we will be doing here in linguistic anthropology means we'll be studying the languages from the perspective of the anthropology and we will read them in relationship with the biological as well as the cultural or socio-cultural aspects of the life or the man. So that is the subject matter of linguistic anthropology. So try to understand this particular aspects. So here when we see from the perspective of the linguistic anthropology, what would be the major aim and objective and what does it examine? So what would be the subject matter of linguistic anthropology? So usually when we say from the perspective of the linguistic anthropology, it usually tries to examine various aspects. So what are the various aspects that linguistic anthropology examines? So the first and foremost aspect is nothing but it tries to study the aspect of the language. So first it tries to understand or what is language. So that would be the first aspect that we'll be studying in linguistic anthropology. First we have to understand what is language. So when we don't understand language, what is language, then it is merely waste of thing that like whatever we understand. So first it tries to look into that aspect. Then Next important aspect what it examines is that, so it also tries to examine how language has originated and how it developed. So it also looks into the aspect of origin and development of languages. So we have various languages. We have several languages from several regions. So it is the task of the linguistic anthropology to understand that thing. So that is another important aspect, right? Then if you look at other aspects, so the linguistic anthropology further it tries to examine the language from structure point of view. So that means how language could be constructed. So that is one another important aspect. So then it also tries to look with respect to the concept of classification of languages. Classification of languages. So friends, try to understand this basic logic that man is a social animal. So when we are calling it as a social animal, so what do you mean by social animal? That means when we are in this society, we have to interact with the other persons. So when we want to interact with the other persons, we need a medium of communication. So particularly when we see from the perspective of the humans, so one thing that is unique to human beings when we compare with all other animals in the animal kingdom is that the language. So we can able to use language and we can able to express the thoughts via language. So that's one other important aspect. So from that perspective, let us try to basically understand what is language so that we can further proceed with further aspects. So if you see from the perspective, basic perspective of what is language, so in simple fashion, how we can say what is language means, basically language is nothing but it's a primary medium of exchange, primary medium of communication. So language is basically, it is nothing but it's a primary medium of communication with which we can interact and we can express our thoughts, our feelings and our emotions. So from that perspective, so first and foremost thing, if you see from the perspective of language, so further we can express that language is nothing but it's a primary medium of communication, so with which we can express our thoughts, feelings and emotions. So this is one thing that we have to remember. So here, so these are nothing but some basic aspects that we have to remember. So when we further say, like when we look language from different perspectives, let's say for example, if we look language from the perspective of structuralist perspective. So when we look from structuralist perspective, that means from the structure of the language. So language is basically nothing but it's a system of structurally related or arranged elements. So structurally arranged elements is nothing but structurally arranged elements. It is nothing but the language from structuralist point of view. Then if you look from functionalist perspective, that means functionally how we can just define language. If you look from functionalist perspective, so generally to say, so language can be further explained as it is nothing but it's the vehicle of expression of our thoughts, beliefs, emotions and those things. So functionally if you see, it is nothing but it is the vehicle of expression of the thoughts, emotions and feelings. So this is how we can basically understand what is language from structuralist perspective, from functionalist perspective, and if you look from other perspectives like from interpretational perspective, if you say, so it is a means of basic social interaction which helps in maintaining the relations. So from interpretational point of view, if you see, from interpretational perspective, if you happen to see and study language, so what we can say is that it is nothing but it's basically what we can say is it is medium of interaction. With which we will interact with other persons in the society. So that's what. So that is how we can say language. In other words, language is nothing but one of the important as well as characteristic form of the human beings. So that is another important aspect. So these are all some of the basic aspects that you have to remember when we talk from the perspective of the language. So with this basic understanding, let us try to explore more about the concept. So that is like what is linguistic anthropology and the branches of the linguistic anthropology. Is that clear? So now, if you look from the perspective of the linguistic anthropology, so linguistic anthropology can be broadly categorized into 3 different branches. So one branch of anthropology is linguistic anthropology, which deals with the basic structure of the language. That means how language has been developed. So how language has been constructed. So how it is being created. So from that perspective, so that branch of linguistic anthropology is known as structural linguistics. So what we'll be doing here, so we'll be systematically dealing with the aspect of the structure of the language. Structure of language. That means when we arrange certain words and certain letters in a systematic fashion, then only we can express some meaning. So when we are speaking, like be it could be phonetics, be it could be semantics, be it could be the other aspects. So all of them comes under the structural linguistics. So it deals with the structure of the language. So that means basically it describes the structure of the language. So that's why as it describes the structure of the language, so we will also call this particular sub-branch of anthropology, this linguistic anthropology, as the descriptive linguistics. Descriptive linguistics. So try to remember it. I hope it is clear to you. So this is one sub-branch of the linguistic anthropology. So then next important sub-branch of linguistic anthropology is nothing but historical linguistics. Historical linguistics. So the name itself, it is talking from the perspective of history. So what we'll be doing here systematically, so in historical linguistics, we will try to understand how language changes over a period of time. So that means evolution of the language with the process, with the time. So that's what we will be saying. So how, very important thing is how language changes with the time. So that is one important aspect we'll be studying. So that is with respect to the historical linguistics. So try to just try to understand this basic logic. So over the passage of the time, so language will also change. So we'll be using different ways of speaking in different periods. So think about the ancient period, the language was different. Think about the modern times, the language is different. So that's how it would be there. So one example, if I want to tell you how language evolves. So generally we used to call mother, and we used to call or use the words father sometimes ago. But with the passage of the time, so language has slightly evolved. So where we started calling mother as mom, isn't it? In English, if you see, mom. And then we started calling father as dad. So from mummy and daddy, then again it shifted to mom and dad. So that is how language evolves with the progress of the time. So that's the one of the important aspect we'll be studying in the historical linguistics. I hope it is clear to you. Now, if you look from other important sub-branch, it is nothing but the socio-cultural linguistics. Socio-cultural linguistics. So what is this particular branch? So this is another sub-branch under the linguistic anthropology, which basically tries to establish the relationship between the language and the culture. Language and culture. So try to understand this clearly. How language and culture are related, how these both are having a relation. So that's what the basic aim. So here in the sense, if you see from the perspective of the language as a component of the culture, so different cultures will have different languages. And different languages has different interpretations. So same word could be present in different languages, but the meaning and essence of it could be changed. So from that perspective, in socio-cultural linguistics, we'll be studying language in the context of culture. So that is one thing. So here we will study how culture influences the language. This is another important aspect. Let us say, for example, if you see from the in our Indian society point of view, so usually we will give some sort of respect to the elders, and we will treat the elders affectionately. So let's take an example. So usually how we say, for example, if there is an younger person to us, so we'll say, Chotu, tum wo leke aao. That means we are using the word tum. So tu wo leke aao, tum wo leke aao. So it shows some sort of affection, so some sort of dearness with the youngers. And when we talk with the elders, so how we say, Hanji, aap kaha jaane wale ho? Aap, we will use. Aap kyun kar rahe ho? Aap kaise kar rahe ho? So we will use the word aap. So when we use these kind of words, let's say for example in Hindi, we will use the words, let's say for example, aap, or we will use the word tum. So based on the cultural things, so we will give some sort of such kind of aspects. So the socio-cultural linguistics will deal such kind of aspects. So where how culture influences the language. So how we will change the language from the context of culture. So that is one thing. So these are nothing but the branches of linguistic anthropology. I hope it is very much clear to you. So because understanding it is very, very important, dears. Okay. So that means the structural linguistic will examine the structural aspects or the structure of the languages, and then like the socio-cultural linguistics will try to explain language from the context of the culture and how both of them are interlinked, and the historical linguistics will try to explain the concept of evolution, origin and further development of language. So these are the basic aspects about three different branches of linguistic anthropology. So I hope this is clear to you. So with this understanding, let us try to go back to our slides and let us try to understand further aspects like what is the significance of the what is the scope and significance of the linguistic anthropology. Is that clear? So when we see from the perspective of scope and significance, so before to this, we should understand how we could able to communicate. So if we look from the perspective of the biological aspects, so in human beings, there were some sort of basic biological changes. So just look at this. So if you see from the perspective of human brain, so human brain can be beautifully divided into different lobes. So the lobe that is present in the front side of the brain is known as frontal lobe, and the lobes that are present in the side, lateral sides, are known as parietal lobes. So first, look at this particular area. So this is frontal lobe. So here, can you see an area which is marked with the red portion? So this area is known as in frontal lobe. In this we can see an area called as Broca's area, and this side it is parietal side, so lateral side. So parietal lobe, in parietal lobe we will have one area called as Wernicke's area. So these two areas, Broca's area in the brain and Wernicke's area in the brain, so these two are primarily concerned with the language and processing of the language. Is that it clear? Now look at the functions of the Broca's area, which is generally located in the frontal lobe of the brain. So what is its functions? So usually the production of the speech and articulation of the speech, that would be done by the Broca's area, right? Then processing of the grammar and syntax, so that is another aspect. So how we have to construct the words, so how we have to use the sequence of the words, so that would be processed by Broca's area. Then sequencing the speech sounds. So let's say if you want to speak something, then we have to just arrange those words in a systematic fashion. So brain in that particularly Broca's area will take up that. So it also supports the verbal working memory. So let's assume I'm explaining you the concept of linguistic anthropology. So my Broca's area is working, and that's why it is supporting me to just have verbal working memory. So I'm just talking to you and Broca's area is working here now. And now you're listening to me. When you're listening to me, which area of your brain will work and which area of your brain will be active? So that's nothing but the Wernicke's area. So what is the function of the Wernicke area? Wernicke's area, which is located in the temporal lobe of the brain, it helps in language comprehension. Is that clear? That means if you want to comprehend my words, or if you want to comprehend the language from others' perspective, then your Wernicke's area should be strong. That's one thing. And it also helps in word selection and the semantics, like meaning of the words. So that is another important aspect. Is that clear? Now, look at other aspects. So integration of the auditory language input. So whenever you are listening some auditory input, so your brain will receive it in a different perspective. That's one thing. The connection of the sounds to meaningful concepts. So whatever the sound you listen, let's say for example, stand, you will have some interpretation. So what do you mean by stand? Then immediately you will stand up and you will okay. So that's it. So like that, connection of the sounds to meaningful concepts. So if you want to be attentive in the class, so you have to make your Wernicke's area active. And if you want to speak properly, so your Broca's area should be well developed. So if you see from the perspective of the motivational speakers or the lecturers or the teachers, for them the Broca's area will be very strong, so that they can just deliver things in a systematic fashion. So the good learners are great listeners. So for good learners, Wernicke's area will be well developed. So that is another important aspect that you have to remember. So keep these things in your mind so that it will be helpful. So work accordingly. So that's one thing. So this is with respect to the areas of the brain which are concerned with the language production and language comprehension. So try to just give in the comment section. So which part of the brain will help in the production of the language, and which part of the brain will help in comprehension of the language. So let us see to what extent you have understood the concept. Is that it clear? Now let us go to our main task. So here we have basically and systematically understood the branches of the linguistic anthropology. So as I was trying to explain, so descriptive linguistics is also known as structural linguistics, and its focus is structure and form of arrangement of language. So that is one thing. Then let's say for example, if we say run and ran, so both are like English tense sentences, present tense and past sentences, like that. So if you see chala and chali, so it is Hindi form of the word. So chalo, chala, chali, so we are just using it from gender perspective. So structure varies from from place to place also. So that is one thing. Then historical linguistics. So how languages change over the time and how they are related to one another. So that is another important aspect. So we have understood that. So then if you see from the perspective of next, so socio-linguistics or socio-cultural linguistics, which is also known as ethno-linguistics. So what does it do? Its focus is that relationship between the language and society or culture. So how language is related with the society, how language is related with the culture. So that would be the task of the ethno-linguistics. I hope it is clear to you now. Now look at this. So linguistic anthropology and its scope and significance. So if you see from the perspective of significance and scope, so language has an intricate interrelationship with the perspective with the culture. So if you see, we can understand how language reflects the people's thoughts, beliefs and customs. So the thoughts, beliefs and customs of the people will be interlinked with the language. Is that it clear? Then language is also linked with the society. So scope also extends to understand society. So how language changes with the class, how language changes with the gender, how language changes with the age. So with respect to gender, so we have saw, like basically in Hindi, we will use different words. So like let's say for example, chala, chali. So chala is nothing but it's the word related to the male gender. So when we want to use it, the female version, chali, we will use it. So that's how language changes with the gender. Language also changes with the age. So aap bolte ho elders ko, tum bolte ho youngers ko. So that is one thing. So region. So regionally also we have a lot of dialects. In Hindi itself we have a lot of dialects. In Telugu also we have a lot of dialects. In Marathi also we have a lot of dialects. So like that, it changes with the region. So then the scope of the linguistic anthropology also extends to the time. So language changes over the time. So that is another aspect. So we have to remember. Then language is also one mode of communication. So that's how, so it has relationship with the society, that is sociology. It has relationship with the culture, so culture, and then it has relationship with the communication, and it also has the relationship with the psychology. So the thoughts will be reflected in the form of the actions, so words, speech. So that's one thing. So what is the basic significance of the linguistic anthropology? So first and foremost thing, it is that it helps us to understand the culture. And then it also preserves the endangered languages. So linguistic anthropology also helps to preserve the endangered languages, the languages which are under threat of extinction. They are nothing but endangered languages. And then linguistic anthropology also improves cross-cultural communication. So that's one another important advantage. So then if you look, it also reveals the power and identity. So that is one another important aspect. So friends, so these are some of the important aspects related to linguistic anthropology. So not only this, linguistic anthropology also tries to explain or helps in the process of classification of the languages. We have n number of languages. We'll systematically classify them under linguistic anthropology. And we also study language as a cultural resource and language as speaking as a cultural practice. So language would be cultural resource, speaking would be the cultural practice. So that's one another important aspect we should take away. So friends, these are all nothing but some of the important aspects related to the concept of the linguistic anthropology. So I hope you have understood the concept. So now try to just take down a question and you can just answer, you can write answer for the question. So the question of the day is, you can have it like, write a short notes on the question is linguistic anthropology. Linguistic anthropology. So you can write it for 10 marker as a 10 marker question. So 10 marker means it would be 150 words. So try to just do this, and you can just post your comments also in the comment section. So like in the comment section, you also try to just mention, so which part of the brain is concerned with first production of language. So try to just comment it. And second one, processing of the language. Processing of the language. Particularly processing here means the concept of comprehension. So try to mention it in the comment section. Let me check how many of you understood the concept clearly. So friends, that's all for today from my side. So let us try to meet in another important discussion in another video. So till then, take care. Thank you all of you for watching the video.